Solution, we're going to decompose this complicated rational expression via partial fraction decomposition. And what we're going to do is set up the model of the decomposition first, according to the bottom of the rational function. So here we have x to the third power minus 8 over x to the second times x minus 1 to the third power. Now that's going to be equal to a sub 1 over the x to the first power plus a sub 2 over x to the second power. And you see I've taken care of both the x to the first power and the x to the second power denominators. Now let's work on the x minus 1 parenthesis denominator. That will be plus b sub 1 over x minus 1 parenthesis to the first plus b sub 2 over x minus 1 parenthesis to the second, and finally plus b sub 3 over x minus 1 to the third. Now I am going to eliminate the fractions. And by the way, this is so important. I'm going to put a cloud around it because when I find the a's and the b's and put them in here, I will have the answer to the question. So I'll put a cloud around that and come back to that at the end of the second video. Now to get rid of the fractions, I'm going to multiply both sides by the LCD, which is x squared times x minus 1 parenthesis to the third power. Now, instead of showing you all the details, I'll show you the result. When I multiply the left side by the LCD, I get an elimination of all the denominators, and all that's left is x to the third power minus 8. Bring down the equal sign. When I multiply the first term by the LCD, I get a sub 1 times x minus 1 in parentheses to the third. Everything else is gone, and then for the second term, plus, I get a sub 2 times x minus 1 to the third. And then the next term, when I multiply by the LCD, I get plus b sub 1 times x squared times x minus 1 to the second. And finally, when I multiply, no, this, not finally, because I have two more terms to go, plus b sub 2 times x squared times parenthesis x minus 1 to the first, and finally, plus b sub 3 times x squared times x minus 1 to the first. Now, this is an important equation that I'm going to refer back to, so I'm going to go ahead and draw a star above it. That refers to this long, stretched out equation. Okay, now, I want to eliminate terms, so here's the explanation about what I'm about to do. To eliminate some terms, because I'm in the process of trying to solve for the a's and the b's. I just examine this real quickly, and I know that things will drop out and disappear if I will let x equal 0. Now, why is it legitimate for me to let x equal 0? Look at the original x cubed minus 8 over x squared times x minus 1 cubed. Although x is not in the domain of that expression, it is valid to plug it in, because we're examining this star expression, and we're trying to get rid of terms so that we can find the values of a and b and c. So I'm just grabbing an x out of the sky. I'm just grabbing an x that I know by examination will get rid of a bunch of the terms, and it will leave just one of the a, b's, or c, a's or b's in there, so I can start solving for them. So here's the result when I plug x equals 0 into this star equation. It leaves negative 8, and then the equal sign comes down, and then there's a 0, plus a sub 2 times 0 minus 1 cubed. So that's 0 minus 1 to the third power, plus another 0, plus another 0, plus another 0. And that gives me negative 8 equals negative a sub 2. And I'll just turn it backwards and get rid of the negative sign, and I've got one of my unknown numerators, a sub 2, is equal to positive 8. Now, that's a big deal. Let's put a box around it. It's the beginning of the answer to plug into the cloud at the top. Okay, that works so well. Let's try it again. This time, again, to eliminate some terms, I just look at it, and I know by just examining it that if I let x equal, let's say, 1 in that star equation, that's going to get rid of some of the variables. So once again, I'm going to bring down the star equation, which is this guy here, and I'm going to let the x equal 1. And when I do that, I get the following. 1 minus 8 equals 0 plus 0 plus 0. Now, see, it's no accident that these are all 0. This is why I chose x equal 1 to plug in there. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. One more, plus 0. And now we don't have a 0. When we get to the b sub 3 term, we have b sub 3 times 1. So that gives us the following result when we solve for b sub 3. b sub 3 equals negative 7. So now we have 2. These are big deal. I'm going to put a check mark here on the a sub 2 and a check mark on the b sub 3 because we are making progress. Now that we have those two values with a check mark, I'm going to go ahead and do the following. I'm going to substitute those because I feel confident about those two values. I'm going to substitute the a sub 2 equal 8, and I'm going to substitute the b sub 3 equals negative 7 into the star equation. See, I told you that was an important equation. Okay, and that's going to give me the following result. X cubed minus 8 equals a sub 1 times x, parenthesis, x minus 1 cubed, plus 8, because I'm substituting a sub 2, times x minus 1 cubed, plus b sub 1 times x squared times x minus 1 squared, plus b sub 2 times x squared times x minus 1. And finally, we would normally have plus b sub 3 from the star equation, but we're substituting negative 7, so it's minus 7 times x squared. I need to make a correction now. Could we go back up here to the star equation? The star equation ends with b sub 2 times x squared times x minus 1 plus b sub 3 times x squared. There is no x minus 1 there. That was my mistake. And I don't have a smart eraser, so I'm just going to have to scribble that thing out. And it doesn't change anything that we've done after that. So just mark it off, or you can just erase it. Okay, now I'm going to try to factor, I'm going to prepare to factor. Prepare to factor common value on both sides. And to do that, I'm going to move some things around. So on the left side, we have the x cubed minus 8 already. But I'm going to move this portion right here over. This 8 times x minus 1. Let me put a big circle around it. All of that stuff is going to get moved over to the other side. And at the same time, I want to expand it, so it's plus 8 times x minus 1 times x minus 1 times x minus 1 cubed plus b sub 1 times x squared times x minus 1 squared plus b sub 2 times x squared times x minus 1. Okay, so on this side, I'm about to factor out in the front the least common multiple, LCM, that they share in common, and it's going to be in common, it's x times x minus 1. And I'm going to arrange the other side so I can do a similar thing there. Equals, okay, on this side I can pull out the common x times x minus 1, and I'll put that in brackets, times the following, a sub 1 times x minus 1 squared, plus b sub 1 times x minus 1, plus b sub 2 times x. And that's what's left in the second bracket.